Welcome to the season review for I'm Not the Expert, but Season 1. Use the time indexes in the blurb where we usually describe what the episode is about to skip to the times where you might want to listen to particular clips. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy the ride. Episode 2. Ray Harryhausen. Ray Harryhausen was born in 1920. In 1933, he watched King Kong. You know the black and white King Kong film?
Yeah.
He watched that and he was sold. That was it. That's what he wanted for his whole life.
Cool, yeah.
He went to the University of California, and when he graduated and went on through his career, he ended up going back there to teach.
Right.
So he was that good. He worked with Willis O'Brien, who is the guy that worked on Mighty Joe Young in 1949.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Ray Harryhausen did a stint in the army in World War II.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And
As most people would have, yeah.
they were doing propaganda films for World War II, and he worked under a colonel, Frank Capra.
Frank Capra.
The director who did It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, one of my favourite movies.
Colonel Frank Capra.
Movies, yeah.
He was an innovator in dynamation. Have you heard of dynamation?
I haven't.
Dynamation is how he used to do the real people, Jason, Sinbad, all these guys, Perseus, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the live action.
Yeah. How he used to do them fighting the monsters.
Yeah, the skeletons that keep rising up from the ground.
What they did was they'd film the fight scene, the real people fighting imaginary monsters.
Okay.
Having looked at the script and looked at the storyboard and known what to do and when to throw a sword and when to block and when to thrust and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And they used to screen that on the background, say. And in the foreground, he used to do the animation. So he could move frame by frame.
So like on a set, like
Yeah.
like
The
on a
set would
tabletop kind of thing, and he'd have
built in the foreground.
and he'd have that playing on a screen behind that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he used to do it frame by frame and be able to move the character, the monster, frame by frame. So
24 frames a second.
The Jason or Sinbad or whoever it was that was blocking the monster striking, he could animate the monster striking.
Right.
Frame
in
by
sync
frame.
with what
in
he's
sync with what
looking
we're
at.
doing.
So
Episode 2. Bonus episode. Medusa's shit deal. Poseidon saw Medusa going to worship in the temple of Athena. Medusa at this stage is the most beautiful woman to walk the earth, right? Whatever your vision of beauty in your head is, that was Medusa times a million. Okay? Poseidon saw her, and he went, hang on a minute, I'll have some of that. And he went over and he defiled her in the temple of Athena. So it was written as he defiled her, but he raped her in the temple of Athena. Medusa was then the victim, and Athena saw this and was furious, absolutely furious. She blamed Medusa. Athena blamed Medusa for being raped by Poseidon, who incidentally Poseidon just fucked off back to the sea.
Yeah.
Carefree, blameless. Yeah, just gone. And Medusa was cursed by Athena. She was made hideous. Her looks would turn men to stone. Her long, luxurious hair turned into a head of snakes. Her body was mutated and she was made into a monster. So the exact opposite from being the most beautiful thing times a million to being the most hideous thing times a million.
Who couldn't even look at a man.
Yeah, she had when she was beautiful Medusa, she had all these male suitors. Now her looks would turn men to stone. Okay? Medusa had two sisters, and in the version of the story I read, the two sisters said something like, here, hang on a fucking minute, when Medusa got punished. So Athena punished them too and turned them into Gorgons. So there were 3 Gorgons that were exiled to this island that they lived on.
And they also had the head snakes and
I don't know if they were, I don't know if, I think they were hideous. I don't know if if they could turn men to stone with the looks because they weren't as beautiful as Medusa. So, you know.
But the head of snakes.
But they were turned into
yeah.
monsters and deformed and all that kind of thing.
Okay. So hang on, just to back up a bit. Why do you think Athena punished Medusa and not Poseidon? Like, she was a priestess of Athena. She worshipped Athena.
I have no idea.
And then she
I have no idea. It could have been
like
God's being capricious. It could have been jealousy, that she was jealous of her beauty, and this was her chance to kind of
or that she
blame her.
Although she was fighting with Poseidon, maybe she had designs on.
Well, no, actually, here's the thing. I read Zeus was Athena's favorite god,
right?
and if Athena, and this is just my theory, if Athena had gone to war with Poseidon, who was Zeus's brother, they may have fallen out. So she punished. Here, it's somebody's fault. It's fucking. It's
Someone's
yours.
getting punished. So I'm gonna punish
and
the
you're
woman.
getting So it's
so it's basically one of the earliest cases of victim blaming.
Well, I'll get into how early it is later at the end of it, but it's weird, and it's. I was appalled while I was reading it. I was disgusted with it. Episode 3: Immortal Jellyfish and Sci-fi Reality. Turritopsis nutricula and Turritopsis dorni. That's what I asked you to remember.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, two students collected specimens that they thought were Turritopsis nutricula. They're just species of jellyfish that they wanted to do tests on.
Right.
Okay? So these two biology students, Kristen Summer and Giorgio Bavistrello, wanted to study some sexually immature Turritopsis nutricula. Being students, they forgot about them. And that's just down to pressure, I assume, because you've got so much to do. Like, they forgot about them.
What, they just kind of left them?
They left them in the tank that they caught them in, I suppose, and put them in after they'd been caught and left them there.
Okay.
And that's not like left them for months and months and months. They might have left them for a week.
Right, but they were off partying, being students and all that.
Yeah, but they left them. One of the students, Christian Summer, came back to the tank and found that there were polyps on the bottom of the tank. So he thought these inverted commas sexually immature jellyfish that he caught, this Turritopsis nutricula, must have reproduced because there were polyps on the bottom of the tank. And that's the only plausible explanation.
Right, okay.
So he couldn't explain it. He observed them over the next few days, not doing anything, not feeding them, or just recreating the circumstances. And the life cycle of a jellyfish goes from planula, which is like a cloud of tissue floating through the water, right?
Right, okay.
It attaches itself to a hard surface like a rock, and it grows into a polyp. And that's a polyp, not unlike a sea anemone. Okay? From the polyp, they sprout off the top. It's literally like a little tower, and they pop off the top, and they are sexually immature Medusa. They're tiny 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter jellyfish, sexually immature jellyfish that float off through the water, and they do their thing. They grow up, and then they reproduce, and then they die, and then the eggs get fertilized in water and turns into a planula again, and the whole thing
starts over
again. Okay?
So almost like the sea equivalent of a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis.
Exactly. Actually, that's exactly what it's like.
Right, okay.
So he observed these, and the sexually immature Turritopsis, what he thought was Turritopsis nutricula, when stressed in its environment, and stressed is like lack of food, predator attack, wrong atmosphere in the water, or whatever it is.
Yeah, kind of wrong pH or acidity.
Yeah. Skipped the planula stage. These weren't Turritopsis nutricula. They were Turritopsis dorni. And it's a species of jellyfish that is technically immortal. Episode 4. Haha, April Fools.
Right, as in hilarious, Latin for joy.
Right,
so followers of the cult of Sybil, right, or the Magna Mater, as she was also known.
Sybil.
Sybil.
Like Sybil Faulty,
Yeah.
Basil's wife.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
Sybil. Now
okay.
it's spelled Cybel, but I'm assuming
It's
that's
Sybil.
Yeah.
It's Sybil Faulty.
Right. Anyway, yeah. So she's also known as Magna Mater, which is Latin for the Great Mother.
Okay.
Right. So, anyways, followers of Sybil Faulty would dress in disguises every April and mock other citizens, even magistrates.
Oh, and that was
even
like they didn't
politicians,
get
yeah.
punished for it.
No,
That's
no.
the same as in they did it in The Life of Brian. There was a whole street of them. You know Monty Python's Life of Brian?
Yeah, I love
There's
that.
a whole street of them.
Not the Messiah.
And
He's a
Brian
naughty
is
boy.
trying to hide from the soldiers chasing him, so he joins them. And they did
Yes!
it. They did it in Gladiator.
Yeah.
Do you remember Maximum, Decimus Meridius, whatever his fucking name is, makes a show of the emperor in the
Colosseum.
Colosseum.
Yeah. Are you not entertained?
Yeah, no, that's long before. That was North Africa. I mean, when he talks, when Caesar does his thumb down to kill the guy, and Maximus doesn't kill him, and makes a show, and Caesar comes down to him, and he turns his back on him.
Yeah.
After that episode, all the street vendors and theatre actors are making a show of Caesar and Maximus by being comedic about it, and they're not getting punished by the legislators and the government because it's freedom of expression, it's freedom of art and First Amendment, I suppose.
Yeah. In ancient Roman times.
Yeah, there you go. So it all comes from somewhere.
Yeah, and those guys would have been followers of the cult of Sybil then.
Yeah.
You know, most likely. Like that's one of the earliest kind of representations of what we come to know now as political lampoon and the likes of Spitting Image or, you know.
Yeah, I love Spitting
I
Image.
absolutely adore it.
Who was your favourite character in Spitting Image? That was written by, what's his face? Ben Elton. Episode 5, Very Superstitious. The Indo-European Celts, and possibly earlier, believed that spirits dwelled within the trees.
Yeah.
And you know, Mother Nature, that's the fundamental
force.
thing. But
The force,
they would knock on the tree, or touch the tree to invoke the spirit for protection, or to not anger it. Yeah, this is like my favourite superstition. I'm not superstitious at all, but
I'm very much into that kind of Celtic stuff.
But to invoke the spirit's protection.
Yeah.
So that's now my favourite superstition.
Use the force.
Yeah, knock on wood.
I love it. That's absolutely. I'm having that.
Christians believed it was more to do with the wood used in Christ's cross.
Oh, because they rubbed everything.
Crucifixion. We said it in the last podcast.
Yeah, and
whatever the fucking Christians want, the fucking Christians get.
Yes.
At
the point of a sword if needs be.
Yeah, well, there you go. But the fact that they believe it's more to do with Christ's crucifixion dates the superstition to 2,000 years ago ish.
It's just
And
certainly no earlier than that.
Yeah,
Probably a lot later than that.
which makes it really flimsy, and as a superstition, it's got a veneer on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know that cheap
it's completely
fucking veneer
contrived,
chipwood bullshit.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not having that. Knock on wood.
I love the Celtic version.
It's the Celtic version.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a
Love
part
that.
I'm sticking
So
to.
many of us Christians, I was baptized Christian. I'm not.
Yeah, I was born and raised Roman Catholic.
Yeah, exactly. So many of us, and so many of the traditions that we were brought up in, have been stolen piecemeal from paganism, from Celtic mythology. That's a whole podcast in itself. I think it is what we're going to do.
I want to talk to you about holidays. I know we've done April Fools in the last one, but I want to talk to you about holidays, and that will get into the whole Christian
because that's
Catholic
what I'm chomping at the bit to get into
preamble
that one.
bullshit. Yeah. Okay, so Christians believe that it was more to do with Christ's cross. We don't believe that, and nor do you.
No.
And you will recognise this. There are others believe that it's dating it to very recently, which has a flimsy aspect to it that I don't like. But they say it was more to do with a 19th century chasing game that kids used to play.
Okay.
And you probably played when you were a kid, because I know I played a version of it.
Right, go on.
That when you're touching a tree, you're safe.
Yeah, okay,
Remember that touch the lamppost thing? Yeah. So you used to have to run around, you get somebody's, hopefully the girl you like chasing you, and you accidentally,
look at me. Chasing me, Jesus.
Yeah. Episode 6, The Chocolate and Popcorn Gods. Lads, turn the podcast off now if you don't want to hear about Willy Wonka.
Okay, deadly.
In Roald Dahl's book, the Oompa Loompas
Yeah.
weren't green-haired, orange-faced
No.
little people
No, they
who
weren't.
worked making candy with a song in their hearts.
Yeah.
Oompa Loompas in the film were
Well,
rescued.
basically Aztecs.
Oompa Loompas in the film were rescued by Wonka from the Wang Doodles, the Hornswogglers, and the Snozwangers.
Snozwangers, yes.
Yeah. In Roald Dahl's first edition of his book, the Oompa Loompas were slaves from Africa.
Okay.
They were 3,000 strong tribe of pygmies imported, inverted commas,
Jesus.
from deepest, darkest Africa.
Yeah, now when they went back and made the Johnny Depp movie,
which I thought was fantastic.
I love
Johnny
that. But
Depp
that's
is so good.
But the origin of the Oompa Loompas in that, and even the look of them and everything else, is much closer to that than what they did in the 70s. With, you know, the orange and green hair and stuff. If you look, they were very much kind of that kind of, they look like Aztec-y kind, you know, that kind of, deep dark tribe of little people or whatever. But the African slaves thing, that's a big no. And I know recently there's been a lot of talk of cancelling Roald Dahl and changing the books.
He was quoted as saying, and I'm not vilifying or making, he's not a villain here, that's not what I'm trying to get. He was quoted in an interview when this was brought up to him. He said, I created a group of fantasy creatures. The white kids in the books were the most unpleasant of all.
That's very true.
Really
they were. I mean, isn't that the whole kind of, you know, cautionary tale of the story? Yeah.
It didn't occur to me that my depiction of the Oompa Loompas was racist, but it did occur to the NAACP and others.
Right.
And they approached him.
Okay.
And he sat down with them. After listening to their criticisms, I found myself sympathising with them, and he revised the book. Episode 7, Unsciency DNA. Again, Mr. Scientist or Miss Scientist, if you're listening, get in touch and correct me.
I have a little bit on that as well.
Okay, do you want to go? Let me tell you what nucleotides are first. So ATCG is adenosine A, thymine T, cytosine C, and guanine G. And they can be in any combination of that within the thread-like structure, which is your double helix.
Yeah. Do you know what each of those nucleotides is made up of?
No.
This is where I was struggling when you were telling me about it the other day, Dal, and I was trying to work.
I'm still struggling.
Trying to get it into my head. They're basically a chemical compound which is a base, a sugar with 5 electrons.
Okay.
And a phosphate, which is like a salt from phosphorus acid.
Okay.
So that's your chemical compound.
So that's the base. That's everyone's basic everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, fair enough. Your DNA is 99% similar to the person next to you.
Yeah.
Even if that person is a stranger. So if you're sitting on the bus listening to this in your AirPods, the person sitting next to you on the seat, if there's one there, or even the driver driving the bus, is 99% similar to you DNA. The other 1% gives you your eye colour, gives you your hair colour, your freckles, or your skin colour, or whatever it may be, or how predisposed to disease you might be. Because some people get lots of diseases throughout their life and some people don't get any, and that 1% is the explanation. Maybe they can now explain medically, but I don't. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's the 1% that is compared between you and your potential father, shall we say, yeah?
My potential father. My potential father was my fucking father.
I'm just saying, if you're a baby and They're trying to discern.
Okay, so it's a paternity suit situation.
Yes,
right, okay.
It's that 1%.
Yeah, I thought you were saying something about my mom.
Between the baby and its potential father.
Okay.
And it's, so it is the similarities in that 1% because the other 99% is identical. Anyway.
Okay, so wind in the fist, you're not getting a box in the nose.
No,
okay.
No, your dad was very much your dad.
Okay. Now, other stuff that we're similar to. This is stupid interesting. This just had me going for ages, and I was just opening up tab after tab after tab on my computer.
Nuts now with the list.
No, there's lots of it, but I've got very little to no explanation for any of it. Okay. So I'm not going in depth. I just found it really interesting. Okay. We're 99% similar to chimps.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Okay.
Didn't some... Yeah,
but I do know...
I'll look it up later.
There's people that give out, if we're descended from chimps, how come they're still fucking chimps? Or I'm not descended from any fucking monkey.
Yeah.
You're not... No, you're not descended from a chimp. We didn't evolve from chimps. No. But we do share a common ancestor a couple 100,000 years ago. On different branches of the tree. So that argument is at a moot point.
Totally, yeah.
Cats were 90% genetically similar to cats.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so someone says they're a cat person, there might be more to it than that.
Well, they're 90%
well,
right.
We all are.
Yeah, they're 90% right.
Mice are about 85% similar. Episode 8. We need to discuss your dog. They were used as guard dogs, and they were used as sentinels, an alarm system.
Okay.
Long before a human in a tribe of humans would have seen or sensed danger, the wolf would have picked it up because dog senses.
The wolves bark. I know they howl. I know they howling at the moon and all that.
Bark, they growl, they snarl. Absolutely. The similar social structure of a wolf pack to that of human tribes meant it was easier for a docile wolf to fit in.
Okay,
it knew its place. It didn't go in and try and be the alpha. It didn't go in and try and control somebody who it felt was below its stature, its societal stature.
It basically went in on that bottom.
It went in as... I'm subservient.
Yeah. And
it got ingratiated itself into the tribe.
And that's literally where man's best friend kind of comes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll get to that because that's crazy interesting. Okay,
cool. I'm finding this crazy interesting, so bring it on, Dale, yeah. Really interesting this one.
Wolves, being intelligent, because they are, and to survive you do have to be, learned to recognise human commands. Even if it wasn't a sit. Give me the paw. Because that came way down the line.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But it was grunts and gestures and body language, would have picked up on all of that. Wolves were the first animal to be domesticated by humans, appearing about 33,000 years ago. Wow. They had smaller size, they had shorter snouts, they probably had smaller ears, but they were still wolf-like. It still looked like a wolf. You'd still look at it and go,
that's a wolf.
That's a wolf.
I mean, look at huskies today. You're looking at what they still look like wolves.
Yeah. Episode 9, Stone Age monkeys.
Archaeologists have observed and have found as well within the archaeological sites. They have their own archaeological record, this troop of chimps. Anyway, they found that when they're hitting stones off each other, they're using it literally as a hammer and an anvil. So it's a stone, a nut, and they're hitting it with a stone, right? Shards of that stone are breaking off, are shearing off into what look almost identical to what archaeologists considered to be early human cutting tools, right?
Yeah, so they might
early human knives, and the monkeys and apes and chimps and whatever are just leaving them there. They're not picking them up. There's nothing they want to cut. They haven't discovered cutting yet, but they look identical in many ways to what archaeologists considered were early human cutting tools. So now it's being reevaluated by some paleoanthropologists are now asking the question, were we using cutting tools as far back, as
they said we were?
Or was it just, more of this, that it was just shards that broke off when they were using kind of hammer and anvil stone, So it opens that question. Now, there are a little bit later on in air fossil record and stuff that there are clearly manufactured,
Well, the next logical step is that shard that's broken off is obviously going to be sharp.
Yes.
By nature, shards are sharp.
Yeah.
And it's going to be used. It's going to be discovered that whether a monkey picks it up and jabs his finger with it, and it's like, oh, fucking hell. It's going to register, if it's that smart monkey, it's going to register that this is a cutting tool and use it to...
Yeah, but as I said, chimps have been doing this for 4,000 years and it hasn't dawned on them yet.
Well,
right? Because they don't have anything that they want to cut or need to cut.
Yeah.
They eat nuts.
That's that fucking chimp over there that you don't like.
Yeah, well, this is it, shiv a chimp. But, yeah.
Episode 10, From Apollo to Artemis, Mankind's Pissing Contest.
It's literally as it is in the kind of 3-2-1 stage of an actual launch. And they had 100% oxygen in the capsule, which they figured was probably the optimum for space travel.
Because there's no oxygen in space.
No, but basically having 100% oxygen pressurized in a cabin
is not a smart move.
It's not, because it basically everything in that cabin wanted to burst into flames, essentially. And one of the things that they had, one of the great inventions that NASA gave us, and we still use today to this very day, was Velcro. They used to kind of stop things floating around in space.
Yeah.
So, but apparently under 100% pressurized oxygen, Velcro becomes highly combustible. So, it was just I don't want to go into too much detail. You can work it out. Roger Chaffee, Ed White and Gus Grissom were lost in pretty tragic circumstances. Pretty horrific way to go.
Yeah.
In the ensuing fire. So after that anyway, as NASA does, and in fairness to them, as they've always done, they learned from those mistakes. They immediately made changes and they reduced it to a 30% oxygen mix. And they thickened the walls then because of the pressure.
Fucking 30% oxygen.
Yeah.
So they cut it by
70%.
Jesus
I know.
Christ.
Yeah.
That's just that's like when your kid learns to bake or something.
Yeah.
And go, well, how much do I put in? And go, put more in. No, more in. Fuck it, put it all in. And then you end up with a disaster.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so that could have killed the moon race right there.
Episode 11, Fasting on Friday, Shoeless on Sundays, and Other Plague Cures.
Around the middle of 1349, an English ship ran aground near Bergen.
Norway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bringing the plague there. Bringing the plague to Norway.
So it's in Scandinavia and it's headed for Russia now.
Yep. By the end of that week, the crew were dead and the plague had reached Denmark and Sweden. This is great. We hear this. And I know I'm talking about very bleak stuff, but this is fucking hilarious, man.
All right, go on. Yeah. We need a laugh.
There, the king believed fasting on a Friday and going shoeless on a Sunday night might avert the plague.
Okay.
Pleasing God. It didn't work.
Again, it's the whole superstition thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've talked about before. I mean, yeah, listen, it sounds ridiculous and bloody crazy now. But I mean, we understand microbiology and stuff now. Back then, I mean, and I'm sure they were trying everything.
Yeah, they were trying everything and
anything,
trying everything desperately.
Yeah.
And watching this thing absolutely annihilate everything around them, everybody around them. But fasting on a Friday and going shoeless on a Sunday, I've no idea why the addendum to add shoes on.
Well, it's
fucking hilarious.
It's penance, isn't it? It's suffering.
But it's suffering if you walk over hot clothes.
In yourself.
Shoes. Going shoeless on a Sunday, it didn't work.
Episode 13. Interesting junk and stuff.
Okay, back when dinosaurs existed, and you'll like this.
Okay.
Back when dinosaurs existed, so pre-66 million years ago, there were still
volcanoes erupting on the moon.
On the moon?
On the moon.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Isn't that dirty? Well, it stands to reason. Because,
that's quite the fireworks show in the night sky, isn't it?
The moon, they theorise, was created because Earth took a glancing blow from
an asteroid,
another, not even an asteroid, but another proto-planet.
Okay, so
like
large asteroid.
But that's why it was a glancing blow. It didn't obliterate it.
Yeah.
But it was the proto solar system was being formed. The moon had just the sun had just kind of ignited, and
I'm pretty sure the Earth hadn't cooled at that stage either. Now I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think.
But it couldn't have, because I mean they were the whole solar system was one
just being
big
formed basically,
fire pit of things bouncing off each other and that kind of thing.
It was billiard table.
That's how they theorised the moon was built. So as the moon coalesced into the moon that we know now, there would have still been volcanic eruptions on it.
Episode 14. So You Think You Know the Celts, Part 1.
The hot dwarf prince was discovered, I think, in 1978.
Okay, the year I was born.
Where was the hot dwarf prince found? My answer would be Hotdorf.
Yeah, which is, I think...
which I'm probably wrong on, but seems kind of obvious to me, seeing as it's the Hotdorf prince.
Yeah, I don't know whether that actually refers to an area or...
Haven't a clue. I don't know. My geography's not great. My geography of Ireland isn't great, but my geography of other countries, less so.
And my understanding of German is non-existent, so
it's Hochdorf. Hochdorf prince.
Okay. I didn't know whether Hochdorf was a descriptive.
I don't know. I haven't a clue.
Or whether it's
I didn't read enough into it. But I was looking, the Hochdorf prince, the burial chamber, it's full of jewels, not jewels as in big rubies.
Before we go there, let's just explain to our listeners what the Hochdorf prince is. It's a mummified corpse, isn't it?
He is. He's a mummified corpse of a Celtic noble of some description. I don't know if he was a war chief. If he was a war chief, why wasn't he buried with his weapons?
Yeah, he just has
he's got a ceremonial dagger.
Yeah,
what the description
a beautiful gold ceremonial dagger. Yeah,
but he's got that big Celtic gold band around his neck, whatever.
A torque.
Yeah, it's torque, and brooches and all this kind of stuff.
And a lot of finery.
Scabbards. There's a lot of finery.
Yeah,
but he's not buried with his weapons.
Yeah,
and I was reading about it, and the thing I had in my head was parallels with Tutankhamun.
Yes.
In Egypt and his burial chamber. And it was really obvious to me that the difference between the two, because they were both really opulent, really well off, and full of gold and full of treasures and all that kind of thing, was the Hotdorf prince doesn't seem to have thought of himself as a god walking on earth.
Yeah, and that absolutely...
Where the pharaohs did.
Yeah, and that absolutely ties in with the Celtic belief system, which I'm going to get to later. But although the gods did walk on earth, in Celtic mythology, that, the leaders and tribes, chiefs, things like that, they weren't kind of deified or treated as gods.
And they weren't led into the delusion that they were deities.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about Tutankhamun, and I was thinking about the difference. And then I was thinking, and I've no answer to this, how you get to the point where you think, you know what, I'm a fucking god walking on earth.
Episode 15. So You Think You Know the Celts, Part 2.
But when Prasutagus, when he died, the agreement that he had with the Romans coming into Britain died with him.
Right.
Apparently, the Romans beat and raped their way through the Iceni tribe.
Okay.
Boudica and her daughters were raped as well. Okay, and that was kind of it for her. Now, in 60 AD, 61 AD, I'm not sure which one it is, and I don't think any historians are.
I don't think it matters.
She led a revolt against the Roman armies.
Okay, so that's why she's famous. I knew she was famous for something, I didn't really know what it was.
And I'm actually very grateful to her as well, and I'll get onto that in a little while.
Okay.
She led a revolt against the Romans.
And there's an estimated 70,000 Romans were killed in that battle, in that revolt.
Right.
She sacked 3 Roman towns in England.
And when you say she sacked, I'm assuming she had an army.
Of course she did. It wasn't her going in with an M60 machine gun.
I was wondering.
Yeah, okay. So she sacked...
It went from her and her daughters, and then it's like, she... I don't know whether her and her daughters just got together and went on a rampage or
Jesus Christ, man. Okay. So when I say she sacked, I'm talking about her fucking army. Okay?
Right, so she became a leader.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
She led a revolt and sacked 3 Roman towns in England.
Right.
One of them was London.
Okay.
Sacked the shit out of the place, Londinius or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Sacked the shit out of the place.
Yeah.
So much so that the Romans considered pulling their tribes out of England.
Wow.
Like she was annihilating them everywhere she went, and she was counter-attacking and all this kind of shit and wrecking up their stuff.
And what was it, tactics, or was it just pure savagery that she was just...
It was a mix.
Yeah.
I'd say it was a mixture of both.
Yeah. Because I know, the Romans would have described the Celts as barbaric. And, and we've already talked about, taking heads and sacrifices to...
Yeah, well, we've already discussed what their meaning of barbaric was.
Yeah, it's, it was barbarism, but it was,
there was a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just marauding lunatics, it was well thought out barbarism, well-planned barbarism, you might say.
It's around the end of these battles that Boudica died.
Right.
It was Romans pushing up into England as the battle raged.
Right.
And the Celtic Iceni collective tribes pushing back with Boudica at the head.
Right.
And it's about this time that she died, and they're not sure if she was injured and died from her injuries or was killed in battle. And I did find documents where it was written that she and her daughters took poison rather than be captured by the Romans. Episode 16. Flip who the what now? The legend goes that British archers or bowmen, when they were captured by the French troops, would have their fingers chopped off. So they couldn't draw the bows. They were archers for the army, and they couldn't draw the bows because you draw a bow string with your index finger and your middle finger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the legend has it have them chopped off so they couldn't do it. So the 2-fingered salute was announcing to your foe, the French in this case,
that you hadn't been I
still have my 2 fingers.
Yeah, you didn't get me.
Yeah, so
okay.
In Agincourt in 1415, this was the go-to taunt for the British forces, with the fingers up in the air. And someone I read has suggested, pluck you. Pluck you sounds very poetically like fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you, Y-E-W,
is the type of wood
that the long bows were made from, and the long bows were
accurate.
Famous because they were so good.
Yeah.
So it works in that respect.
So pluck you is accompanied with the visa.
Apparently it did.
I believe it.
There's absolutely no evidence
to
support either of those facts. And
so even the 2-finger salute, there's no evidence for that?
There was no evidence. It's nice to think of because I heard it years ago when I was a kid and I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it does sound
that
really cool.
is so good. I love it. There's no evidence for it. Or there's none I could find. And I read articles.
And did you find any kind of contradicting evidence for another origin for it?
Nope.
Well, then I'm going with that one then.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with
just
that.
like the Celts knocking on wood, I'm going with that one.
Yeah. It could be an urban myth, but...
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah. But
it's out there now.
But I found articles of people saying there's no evidence for it ever having occurred in the annals of history or whatever like that. And the pluck you, it strikes me, was just added by somebody
that seems like a
relatively recently.
Yeah. Because it fits so nicely with fuck you.
It is. It's brilliant. But, and it's very clever and it's very good. And somebody read the U tree and they were like, fucking pluck you works for me. Fuck you. Yeah, great, fantastic. And then it just became.
It's almost
it's
almost
too
Python-esque.
easy. But I'd never heard the term pluck you, and it never occurred to me before I read it.
Yeah.
And I understood it immediately, and I'm sure lots of people have.
I can see
But
myself
it was
going
just
around today telling people pluck you.
Yeah, it was just too well done, too neat, too tidy, and there's no evidence for it. So that's it.
I like it. So
if you're listening to this,
I'm keeping it.
there's no evidence for the two-fingered salute being British bowmen or pluck you. Episode 17. Grace O'Malley, Parrot Green. Grace O'Malley had 3 kids with Donald. Her kids, Owen, Murrah, and Margaret.
Yeah.
I assume after her mother. Before Donald was murdered by a rival clan.
Right.
In battle, they would have been fighting. He was murdered by a rival clan, or they were ambushed and jumped on while he was out hunting. I was one of the facts I read. So he might have been out hunting.
Yeah, well, when you're saying murdered, it doesn't sound like battle, so that's probably more.
Murdered, jumped on, ambushed,
and
murdered. The clan the men belonged to that murdered Donald was the fucking Joyce clan. And I read that and I went, Jesus Christ.
You killed Granny O'Malley.
Yeah, I was like, for fuck's sake. Yeah. So they murdered Donald.
Right.
The fucking Joyces then set out to take their castle because apparently there was only a woman at home.
Right,
Grace
okay.
and the kids, right? Grace's counter-offensive to the invading Joyces was so fierce, it was likened to a mother hen protecting her brood.
Right.
Which seems like a very uncomplimentary thing to me.
It was an Irish mammy.
No.
Don't fuck with an Irish mammy.
Yeah. But here's why it was likened to a hen protecting her brood.
Right.
Castle Kirk, Loch Corrib, and look it up, to this day is still known as Hen's Castle.
Okay, right.
And that's why.
Right. And that comes from Grace O'Malley.
That comes from Grace O'Malley. After Donald's death, Grace and her children returned to Clare Island in Clew Bay.
Yeah.
So I wondered where Clare Island was because I was like, County fucking Clare? But it wasn't.
No, it's Clew Bay is in Galway.
Clew Bay, yeah. So she returned there with her kids. And historically, it's Inishclear. And it's south of Achill Island.
Okay. Right.
So I was wondering, I was like, I haven't fucking ever seen that in geography. And my geography is not great, but it's Inishclear.
Okay, let's go look at that.
She had what's still known today as Granwalia's castle rebuilt.
Yeah.
So obviously it had fallen into some kind of disrepair and she had it rebuilt and fortified.
Yeah. Now I noticed something else as well on that. Like I did skip past all the stuff about the husband because you had told me to, and I know why now. But I did just catch the tail end of it, and her revenge was so ferocious on what I now know to be the Joyce clan.
Joyces.
Right? That she became known as the Dark Lady of Doona.
No, that wasn't it, but I will get to it later.
Was it not?
No,
okay, as I said, I skipped.
Yeah,
so
you may have skipped past what led up to that.
A little bit more, okay.
That's not why she was the Dark Lady.
Fair enough, right, well then I leave you to fill in the gaps for me later. Then.
Yes, but you're right, she was called the Dark Lady of Doona. Episode 18. Are you talking shite again? The S-bend was later improved into the U-bend by a man who was born to influence the toilet invention game. He was born to it. It was his calling.
Okay.
Thomas Crapper. That's his name. Look it up. Thomas Crapper. Crapper. Thomas Crapper.
That's where the Crapper gets his name from.
Might be. Thomas Crapper gave us the U-bend in 1880. And unlike the S-bend, it didn't regularly clog up. That's the greatest name ever. You know what? When they were hanging out of occupations, it was like, name Edison. Oh, Christ, what are you going to do?
Edison,
okay, here, look.
Electricity sounds the same.
Light bulb, go for it. What's your name? Crapper. I got a job for you. Yeah, so they didn't, he got the U-bend in, because he obviously thought long enough about it to go, these two
the S-bend's too complicated.
U-bend, much more simple.
Yeah.
By the time Europe moved into the 19th century, cities had modern water and sewage systems / infrastructures.
Right.
So have you ever seen and they still weren't great. Like, and I know it's not the 19th century, it's 18th or 17th. Have you ever seen the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr.?
Years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, there's in the second one, and I saw it years ago, so I'm going on memory. There's a contraption in the sewer that's below the Houses of Parliament that's going to release a cyanide gas into Parliament and kill everybody.
Right.
And he foils it in the end, blah, blah, blah. Movie's ruined for whoever hasn't seen it. But my point is, they're in the sewer. They're in the sewage system, and they're dealing with deactivating this cyanide device, this cyanide gas release device. And none of them are curling their nose at the stink that's got to be around. None of them are nearly passing out from the smell that's not good. That's not, and none of them are standing in something going, oh, for fuck's sake. It's the most
natural, normal.
It's the most.
Or just ignore the movie.
It's the most undump environment I've ever seen in a movie. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And if you look at like where they enter the sewer to go in and find this thing, all the effluents that are flowing out into the Thames, the front of the sewer system is just a wash. No, it's a wash with all this filth. Episode 19. And now the weather, part 1. Beneath the 2.4 mile, 4 kilometer thick ice sheet is Lake Vostok.
Lake Vostok?
A lake. Vostok.
Liquid under Antarctica.
Lake. Yeah.
I imagine it's barely above freezing, is it?
I would say so, but we'll get into that and then we'll make a decision on it. A very amateur decision on whether we think it is or not.
Our inexpert opinion.
There's about 70 subglacial lakes that have been discovered beneath Antarctica. And scientists, and I don't know how they get this estimation, but they estimate there might be upward of 400.
Wow.
Yeah, not fucking insane.
It is, yeah, it's weird. Like, okay, something that I never really got about Antarctica, and it always confuses me. Because it's, it's so fluid. It's essentially, in my mind, and I'm hoping you can correct me if I'm wrong or confirm
or we can't.
That Antarctica is essentially a plateau or it's a continent of icebergs floating on the sea, is it not?
No. There's land mass.
There is a land mass.
There would be land mass there for the icebergs to not float on the sea, because floating would kind of infer that they're floating all over the fucking gas.
Yeah, no, but are they not held roughly in place? Like, I know, like, there is a landmass in Antarctica, but the continent of Antarctica is much bigger, if you know what I mean, than that landmass.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because you've got the basically frozen sea.
Yeah.
Which, is part, like if you could imagine if you were standing in Bray, right, and you're on the beach in Bray and you're looking out and the beach in Bray is frozen and the sea is frozen. You're not going to be able to tell what's land and what's sea, if you get me. That what Antarctica is like? Yeah,
well, you're not going to be able to tell what's land and what's sea if what you're standing on is 4 kilometer thick ice.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, like they say Antarctica is the largest continent, but how much of it is actually landmass? Is the landmass the largest continent, or is it the landmass and the ice that makes it the largest continent?
You have to go above a certain thickness before you call it landmass.
Yeah, I suppose you could. Well, I'm thinking terra firma, rock and whatever, as opposed to just kilometres of ice.
I don't know if the rock and stone and gravel and mountainous whatevers are what constitute the largest landmass. If they're that big. I know they're not that big as the Antarctica. You will see at the bottom of the globe if you look at the Earth on the internet. picture of the Earth. Yeah.
Because a lot of that's just ice.
But if you've got ice that's 4 kilometers thick, that constitutes land to me.
Yeah.
Episode 20. And now the weather, part 2.
Not so much the movie, but the actual storm itself, the perfect storm, and why it was called the perfect storm, and what was so special about it. So it happened in 1991 between October 28th and November 2nd. So basically what you had a bog standard hurricane called Grace down in the Caribbean around Bermuda. And just your average kind of category 1 hurricane, minding its own business down there.
That's the off start though, isn't it?
Pretty much. Yeah. But this, nobody predicted that this was going to do anything like what was about to happen. So basically, it moved up the eastern seaboard of the US. Now, it's about 300 kilometres off the coast. The thing with hurricanes is they are anticyclonic, so they rotate clockwise, which naturally causes them to travel west to east.
Right.
So this is off the east coast of America. As far as anyone's concerned, this thing is going out to sea. It's not going to make landfall. It's not going to be an issue, yeah?
Yeah.
So it goes up the eastern seaboard, heading on the, on a northeastern kind of track, yeah? Up the east coast, but getting further and further out to sea as it goes up. So it's not bothering anybody on land. However, at the same time, there was a northeastern storm brewing over New England, right? So that was causing a major low pressure over, kind of Boston. New
Okay,
Hampshire.
so just a storm, not
a
storm with a name. You know the way they name.
This is just, it's not hurricane force, it's just a low pressure, shitty weather, and, moderately high winds, whatever. It's a northeasterner. They're quite severe, bring a lot of rain and stuff, but nothing, catastrophic. So you had that one brewing over New England, so up around kind of Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And Hurricane Grace is hurtling towards that. Now, as I said, hurricanes rotate clockwise, so move west to east. That's just, if you think of it in your head, it's like a wheel. So it's moving that way.
Right, yeah.
What happened was, because of the low pressure being created by the northeaster storm over New England, when Hurricane Grace got up there, it started to be sucked back towards land.
Right.
So it actually went backwards, it retrograded. Hurricanes do not do.
Okay.
So it was completely unique for that to happen. So it got sucked back towards the New England coast.
Okay.
And eventually got swallowed by the northeastern storm, which was like pouring nitro into an engine. It just exploded.
Right.
It exploded. Your average hurricane is about 200 to 300 miles across. When Hurricane Grace collided with the northeastern storm coming down from New England, it was 1,500 miles wide.
Episode 21. When Volcanoes Explode, Part 1. When Voyager 1 was passing Jupiter in 1979, imaging scientist Linda Morabito turned Voyager's camera to take a parting shot of the Jovian system.
I remember that, yeah.
And in taking that shot, she took a photo of Io, one of Jupiter's biggest moons. One of its 80 moons.
Yeah.
Europa is frozen.
Is Europa? Sorry, yeah.
And there's a thing about that in the
it's most likely to
papers.
Have life, isn't it?
I'll tell you about it in a second. But she took a photograph of Io and inadvertently snapped the first photo of a volcanic eruption on a body in the solar system other than Earth.
Cool.
So that's fucking class.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And it wasn't lava and magma and shit.
It
was ice and water. And they think it was from the tidal forces generated by Jupiter's immense gravitational forces on its moon. Because it squashes and stretches them and shit, And all that friction is going to create
it's hard to kind of fathom just the level of gravity displacement that Jupiter kind of, it's so big.
It pulls on the sun.
Yeah.
What is that zone? There's a zone. The center of the solar system is actually outside the surface of the sun. It's not in the sun. And it's down to the planets in the solar system.
I know what you mean, the orbits, yeah.
And I can't remember what it is. I can't remember what it is. It's the influence of the planets on the sun, as much as the sun holds the planets in their orbits, their gravitational pull in their orbits is influencing the sun.
Right,
so the center is out. The center of the solar system is outside the surface of the sun.
Yeah, it's Barry center.
Yeah, it's the Barry center. I knew it was Barry something.
Yeah.
What have you got now?
So a quick Google search of what is the true center of the solar system brings up the following. It's actually just outside the sun's surface. Our entire solar system also has a barycenter. The sun, the earth, and all of the planets in the solar system orbit around this barycenter. It is the center of mass of every object in the solar system combined.
Episode 22. When Volcanoes Explode, Part 2. This guy discovered bones of Pompeians that had been buried under the pyroclastic flow. And the pyroclastic flow, you remember that? It's the hot ash and debris and detritus and lava and rock and all that shit that comes steaming down mountain at like
700 miles an hour. I think you said it was, which really shocked me.
700 kilometers.
Yeah, like you see bloody fucking volcanoes in movies or whatever, and it's that slow, you know, lava seeping down the side of the hill, creeping towards. And I was like, how the fuck did they not run away from this shit? Like, and then you said to me it's 700 miles an hour.
Well, that's like, the pyroclastic. That's the pyroclastic flow. Yeah. That's not the lava.
No, that's
surge.
The like initial explosion, basically.
It's been exploding. As far as I know, it's been exploding. It's a build up, and then it's a release. Yeah. It's top heavy, and it just surges down. It just goes like an avalanche. Yeah, and it just swallows everything in its path. But the guy that discovered the bones, he discovered them in not a cavern, because when you think of cavern, you think of something huge. Yeah. But it's a cavity. That's the word I'm looking for.
A small cave.
And the cavity, he filled with plaster cast, and it turned out to be the shape of the person who used to own those bones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
like
that's where the body was, like,
vaporized, incinerated, whatever way you want to put it. And they're really, if you go on Google and look at them, and maybe you'll find a couple of pictures and you can throw up, or throw up a couple of links. Yeah. But it's really haunting. You don't see like vivid features. They're just kind of, you know, they're head shaped, amorphous.
Like a clay
limbs
kinda
sticking out. You can tell that they're
clay sculpture that's not finished.
You can tell that they're in the fetal position, or you can tell that they're hunkered, holding their knees to their chest. Yeah. You know, that kind of way. But they're haunting looking. On the day of the eruption, Pompeii was business as usual. Now, I read that Pompeii was a holiday resort town. So it was very popular. And there were two festivals, and I don't know the names of them, but there were two festivals. One was, actually, you know, I don't know the name of them, but I think one of them was to honor Augustus, who was considered to be the first emperor of Rome. Yeah. And even has a month named after him. I think it's November.
August.
It's fucking August. So he's even got a month named after him. But it was to honor him, and the other one was to honor, and this is vague, something in the back of my head is telling me this, was to honor the god Vulcan.
Okay.
Which has a certain irony to it. Episode 23. Very Superstitious 2. In Greek legend, Narcissus, a hunter from Thespia, was the most desirable man in the world.
And you know what Thespia was really famous for?
Actors.
Well, yeah. Theatre.
Thespians. Yeah.
It's where the word, Thespian comes from.
Thespians. Yeah. Okay. I'll never forget that now. In the gnome world, he was the most desirable man in the gnome world. He was...
In his own head he was anyway.
Well...
Narcissism.
Well, that's where narcissism comes from. Yeah. But apparently he was. That's the legend that somebody wrote that he was. Okay?
Right.
Hera, the queen of the gods and wife of Zeus, was totally enraptured listening to Echo, a mountain nymph and an amazing conversationalist. So she could talk the hind legs of a donkey. Right? While she was captivated by what Echo was saying, Zeus was having a threesome with two other mountain nymphs.
Jesus
He was a
Christ.
philandering fucker.
I know, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But
Flatter of the gods, it's
Yeah.
privilege, isn't it?
realizing what Zeus was at, but not being able to do squat about it because he's the king of the gods.
Yeah.
Hera lost the plot with Echo, the mountain nymph.
She blamed her for it.
Well, yeah, the gods seem to have a habit of doing this, don't they?
Yeah.
Because they fucking did it to Medusa.
I can't take it out on who I want to take it out on, so I'm just going to take it out
I'm
on
just going to
somebody.
blame you. Yeah. So go back and listen to the whole Medusa episode if you don't know what we're talking about, but it's nuts. She lost the plot with Echo because Echo was distracting her and Zeus was having a threesome while she was looking the other way.
Right.
Kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. Because she was busy with Echo, Zeus thought, here's me chance.
Yeah. So he went off and he was doing his bit while his wife was in the kitchen talking to somebody else. You know that kind of way?
Yeah.
Okay. For Echo's deception, Hera took her away her ability to talk, which is, it's been struck dumb. Being struck dumb is bad in itself.
But for someone who's a fantastic orator.
Who's a great orator and conversationalist, and it's kind of the core of her being kind of thing.
But is there
then
a thing,
it's pretty bad.
Are we looking at that myth in the right way? Did she intentionally...
She may have, she may not have, but either way, whether she did or not...
Was she complicit in the other two, Shag and Zeus?
I didn't read that she categorically was. I didn't read that she wasn't. But she got blamed. And she may have been the innocent party in all this. Zeus being an absolute wanker.
He gets away with it anyway,
said, fucking take this element. And he went off with two others. Okay?
Exactly.
So, for Echo's deception, if she was involved in it, Hera took away her ability to talk, save for only being able to repeat the last one or two things another says.
And her name was what again?
Echo.
Episode 24. Mind blown.
The Mona Lisa has no eyebrows.
No eyebrows at all.
None at all. She used to have. People always wonder why Mona Lisa doesn't have any eyebrows. The mystery has been solved, all thanks to an engineer named Pascal Cotte. When Da Vinci painted her originally, she did indeed have eyebrows. But over time, these eyebrows were eroded due to cleaning to the point where they're no longer visible today. So how come only her eyebrows are gone? I'm just guessing, and I do a bit of painting myself, so I have a little bit of an understanding of this stuff. Certain pigments will last longer than others and are more resilient. So I'm just wondering, was it the actual pigment he used in the eyebrows?
I don't know.
Was it just that, and that's actually washed away, whereas other pigments are more long lasting, more permanent?
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't agree with it, or obviously she doesn't fucking have eyebrows. I'm just saying, I don't know what I'm saying.
I know
there are a lot more obvious features on a face. Sorry, let me start that again. There are a lot less obvious features on a face that could fade into the background to the point where they are no longer detectable with your eyesight or whatever than eyebrows.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean. Like, they're fairly heavy duty, like. And who's to say that isn't the case? I mean, we don't know what the Mona Lisa looked like when it was originally painted.
Maybe she had a beard.
No, you know what I mean. There might have been a hell of a lot more detail in that face than what we see today.
Isn't there a whole raft of questions about whether it's actually a woman?
Really?
Yeah, somewhere in the back of my head, I remember people questioning the gender of the Mona Lisa.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe it always was a woman in the painting, but Da Vinci's muse,
or his model may not have
been a woman.
Have heard
so
that said
somewhere
before.
in the back of my head,
I
know
as well when
about
it's been X-rayed and stuff, or bloody CAT scanned or whatever it is. It's not quite an X-ray, but it's he had used that canvas for 3 or 4 different paintings before the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
there's other
I didn't know
behind that. Yeah, there's other stuff behind that. Yeah. It just goes to show he was quite frugal as well. Waste not, want not.
Yeah, well, there is all that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting though that, as you said, like her eyebrows are the only thing that's disappeared. I'd argue that and say maybe maybe her face was a lot more vibrant or had a lot more detail.
I'm
to
sure
it.
it
And
was
they've
much
lost
more
that over
vibrant.
the years.
Yeah,
So that's
but
been
they
lost as
haven't
well.
lost any other distinctive features on her face as opposed to a whole fucking eyebrow.
Eyebrows, See, that's what makes me think that it may have been a certain pigment, that whatever chemical they used to clean just took that whole pigment off.
You know what they need? They need that Spanish lady that fixed up that picture of Christ.
Oh, Jesus, did you see that?
They need her to fix Mona Lisa.
No, they really
Give
don't.
Mona Lisa a unibrow.
They do not. Anywhere near.
The fucking picture that you want with Jesus Christ. That was fucking hilarious. Episode 25, Samhain, the origins of Halloween. The Hill of Ward is perfectly visible from the Hill of Tara, and the fire lit on the night of Samhain at Ward was a prelude to the Samhain festival at Tara, which took place, I think it was the night after. So it was kind of it
was a beacon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the beacons are being lit.
Yeah.
That kind of crack. Yeah,
that's
like
the church bells that rang on a Sunday for,
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
And that might be where it came from. Actually, no, you can't say that because the Christians come in and they fucking take everything.
We're going to get there.
What the fucking Christians want.
The fucking Christians get.
Yeah.
Apologies to any Christian listeners.
Yeah. But your religion is bunk. Interestingly, fires in people's homes when it was coming up to the main communal bonfire night were let die, and they were cleaned out, reset and relit anew from the massive community bonfire to mark the beginning of winter and to get protection.
Class.
Isn't that fucking
I really like that.
Yeah, so I read that and I was like,
I just love that in community. I do. I just love that kind of promotes kind of community, and that's lovely actually. That's really...
On May 13th, 1609 CE, Pope Boniface, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his fucking name. It is
Boniface,
yeah. Boniface. Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome, establishing the Catholic feast of All Martyrs' Day.
Okay, I hadn't heard of that one before.
May 13th, 1609. All you need to remember is May 13th.
Was it a Friday?
I wouldn't say so. Maybe, I don't know. Pope Gregory III later expanded the festival to include All Saints as well as All Martyrs.
Okay.
And moved it from May 13th to November 1st.
Right, All Saints Day.
Yeah. By the 9th century, Christianity had supplanted many older Celtic rites.
Yeah.
In 1000 CE, the church made November the 2nd All Souls Day in what was widely believed to be the church's efforts to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a church-sanctioned celebration.
Yeah.
I just get angrier and angrier as I read it. I was like, fuck you, man.
Jumping all over our culture.
Yeah. All Saints Day.
Erasing our culture, sorry.
All Saints Day. It was erasure of culture, yeah. All Saints Day on November the 1st, which was Samhain's original date.
Right.
Was also called All Hallows Day.
Yeah.
And All Hallows comes from, and I can't remember how to pronounce it, but a Middle English word which was All Hallow something. I can't remember. But it translated into All Saints Day.
All Hallowed Souls.
Or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah. So All Hallows made Samhain, which was the day before, All Hallows Eve. And eventually that became Halloween. And that's a wrap on Season 1. A big thank you to everybody that stuck with us for the duration. It's much appreciated. Keep an eye out for Season 2, which starts with an absolute banger on December the 1st. See you all soon.